the risk. To them, their why gave their how purpose. Tonight, I want us to see that if we have fellowship in the gospel, that if we connect to the mission of God, it allows us to be part of something bigger than ourselves. It's not all about me, like we talked about in our first lesson. The mission of God connects us with something bigger than Cliff Sabre, which I'm not that big, right? But it's connected with something bigger than all of us together. Fellowship joins us with something bigger than self. When the why is bigger than you, the how has purpose. But here's the problem. The problem in the Philippian church, and the problem with most of us, is we serve the wrong why. You ask people, why are you here? Why did you do that? Why did you choose this path in life? Why did you do this or not do that? Oftentimes the answer isn't, well, it's part of God's divine eternal plan. No, it's, well, I felt like it. I felt an impulse to do that. It made me happy. I don't know, I just can't control my actions. You know, people have a lot of whys, and they're serving them, but it's the wrong why. When you think about the Apostle Paul, he knew his why. Prove it to you. Verse 21 of this chapter, Philippians chapter 1, verse 21. Paul says, "For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain." Paul knew his why. His why was Jesus. His why was making a difference with the gospel of Jesus Christ in the world. And because of that, he was able to face death. Yeah, not going to Mars and dying, but actually face death because he knew he was going to die, knew when he went to Rome he was probably going to be beheaded, all of that. He was able to face that and say, to live is Christ and to die is gain. His why gave his life purpose. I want to be like that. But what happens is sometimes we serve the wrong why. We serve the why of comfort. We serve the why of temporary joy. We serve the why of, fitting in. We serve the why of, some way of making ourselves feel good. We serve the wrong whys. And I see this like working with kids at camp and things like that. I see it a lot with them too. Where the why that they're serving is not the right why. You ask them, why did you do that? Well, I just wanted to. It's not usually the right one. Give you an example that probably fits all of us. It hits the teens, but it also hits us too. Have you ever had a time where someone didn't like you? A lot of us have, right? We've all had those times where someone didn't like us. And you ask, why didn't they like me? Well, usually it's not a really good reason that people don't like us, but how did you respond to it? I'll tell you that all of us, young and old, because I thought that as I got older, peer pressure wouldn't matter, but it really does still. We all still want to be liked. We all still want to fit in. And what happens is fitting in and being liked becomes our why. Want to know why we don't teach people the gospel a lot of times? Because, that might put a strain on the relationship. That might make us feel a little bit uncomfortable. That might make them not like me, so therefore I'll keep my faith to myself. That's the wrong why. It's a why, and you did a how because of it, but the how was wrong and the why was flawed, right? When our why is correct, our how has purpose. So often, our reason for our existence is, I want people to like me. And you see this so much today in our social media world. And I live on social media. I got an Instagram, a Twitter, I got a Facebook page. I logged out of my Snapchat and I forgot the password for that one, but I do have one of those two. I haven't figured that one out so much yet. I even got a LinkedIn somewhere, and for those old timers, I had a MySpace page back in the day. I don't know what you're talking about, Cliff, but I had one of those. But here's what happens. We live in a world that wants to be liked. Everybody's sole reason for existence nowadays is to get people to like them. And it's not truly like them, but to click like, for them, or follow them, or put a heart next to them. Give you an example I found, and I shared this at Bible camp, I think last year. Crazy example of this, of a person who had a why, but it was a wrong why. U.S. woman shoots boyfriend in YouTube stunt. Now here's what it was. This couple had a YouTube page where they posted videos of their different antics that they would do, and they started getting a lot of followers and people to subscribe to their channel. Now, I understand that if you have a lot of subscribers, you can monetize that and make money off of ads and things like that. Maybe that's what they were hoping for. Maybe they just wanted to be popular. But either way, here's what they came up with. This couple came up with an idea for a stunt that was going to get so much attention on YouTube that everybody was going to subscribe to them. They had a why. Their why was, I want people to like me. It was the wrong why. And their how was flawed because of that. So the wife posts something online. She says, me and Pedro are probably going to shoot one of the most dangerous videos ever. His idea, not mine. So they're drumming up, oh, we better pay attention. We're going to do something crazy. It's sad what happened, but here's what their stunt they came up with was. Pedro was going to hold a phone book. And his wife, I think her name is Annalisa or something, Mona Lisa, she was going to shoot a gun at the phone book he was holding. And they theorized that bullets don't go through phone books. Okay? So they didn't test this theory apparently, because Pedro holds up the phone book and Mona Lisa shoots at the phone book, and their why was flawed, and their how was broken, and Pedro died. That's a true story. In fact, they interviewed the aunt later. She said, Claudia Ruiz told this TV station that her nephew had told her that he wanted to do the stunt because we want more viewers, we want to get famous. They had a why. Their why was, we want more viewers, we want to get famous. They're famous for being dumb. Pedro's gone now. He doesn't get to enjoy this fame. And, oh, Annalisa, his pregnant girlfriend, by the way, now has a baby without a daddy, too. So, all because they had a flawed why. They had a how. The how was wrong. The why was flawed. And because of that, all they wanted to get famous. And so often, even though we don't seek fame online or things like that, I think all of us deep down like the approval of others. We like it when we get messages on our phone. We like it when people like us. We crave validation and approval, but so often we're craving it from the wrong place. If your why is, I want people to like me, your why is flawed. Not everybody liked Paul. And by the way, your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, not everyone liked him. Now, we should be kind people. We should be loving people. We shouldn't be giving people a reason not to like us. But if your why is to get attention, to get validation, to get approval, your life has no meaning. See, not everyone is going to like you, and that's okay. But so often we connect to the wrong people and the wrong place. We're supposed to have a connection. We're supposed to have fellowship with Christians. We're supposed to have fellowship with a mission. We're supposed to have fellowship with God. But so often we connect and have fellowship with the wrong purpose, and then our life has no meaning. And then when life gets difficult, when life is hard, we don't make it through those difficult times because we're not part of a mission bigger than ourselves. So tonight, that was just introduction. So I told you I'd go longer. Tonight, what I want us to see is how when we connect to a mission bigger than ourselves, our life has meaning. So what's our mission? Well, I think in the book of Philippians, our mission is found in chapter 2, verse 3 and 4. Where it says, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count one another as more important than yourself. Do not merely look out for your own personal interest, but for the interest of others. That's the mission. That's our purpose. That's our why. And when we connect with that, our life will find meaning. So, lesson tonight simply is this. When life is difficult, connect to the mission. Let me prove it to you from the text. Philippians chapter 1, starting in verse 12. The Apostle Paul is going to lay out for us some of the difficult circumstances that he's in. And these difficult circumstances are a reflection of, the society and things that he's in. But we have difficult circumstances in our life too. How do we handle them? What do we lean upon during those difficult times? Let's look at what Paul did. Philippians chapter 1 and verse 12. It says, now I want you to know, brethren, that my circumstances have turned out for the greater progress of the gospel. So Paul says, my life, the situation that I am in, has allowed me to help further the mission, the cause, the purpose, right? He says, so that in my imprisonment, in the cause of Christ, has become well known throughout the whole Praetorian Guard and to everyone else. And that most of the brethren, trusting in the Lord because of my imprisonment, have had far more courage to speak the word of God without fear. So Paul's in a difficult spot right now. Paul is in prison. He's not in a good place in life. He's not in a place where everybody likes him. He's not in a place of comfort. He's not in a place that you would usually find joy. But when Paul's in this difficult circumstance in life, he connects to the mission. He finds fellowship to a cause that's greater than himself. So instead of moping in prison, because you think about it, if there's one place where you might be self-absorbed, if there's one place where you might have a woe is me attitude, you'd be in jail, especially. Was Paul in jail for a just reason? Yes or no? No, he wasn't. So he's in prison for crimes he didn't commit for an unjust, reason. He could be saying, I don't belong here, this is bad, this is flawed, the whole system is corrupt. He doesn't do that. He embraces the hardship and continues in fellowship, connecting to the mission of Jesus Christ. I've had so many people over the years tell me, well, when life calms down, then I'll get connected more to the mission, right? Ever heard something like that? Or when life settles, when I get through this time in my life, then I'll be more dedicated to Jesus Christ. Paul's in jail. He could have said, when I get out, then I'll continue the mission. No. You signed on when you got baptized into Jesus Christ, and now you're in fellowship with it. So Paul's in prison, and while he's there, instead of complaining, he selflessly is doing what? He's preaching. He says, my circumstances have worked out well. He said, it's good. He says, because now the cause of Christ is being known to everybody. He's preaching to the guards while he's in prison. Most of us would say, get out of here, guard. I shouldn't be here. This whole system's corrupt. But no, Paul says, I'm going to preach. He's part of that mission. See, his mission that he had fellowship with gave his life meaning and purpose. His why directed his how, and the how was, I'm going to preach to people even while I'm in prison. And look how great it was. Verse 14. So that most of the brethren, trusting in the Lord because of my imprisonment, have far more courage to speak the word of God without fear. Paul says, now when people hear about what I have done, they don't want to quit now. They got encouragement from me because all of us do this. We read about a missionary who's in a situation where there's a lot of persecution and they're still preaching. We're like, wow, if they can do that, I can do this. If they can hang in there, I can overcome what I'm going through. Paul was in a rough place. But the brethren saw that he was still preaching, that he was still connected to the mission, that he still had that fellowship in the gospel. And because of that, they found encouragement in what he was doing. Our secretary there in Visalia, Stacy, her grandfather, a man by the name of Jake Coppinger, he was a missionary for several years and all over the world, but Africa and India. And I got to know him early on in my preaching career. I was like 18, 19. He was a really nice guy, really encouragement to me. He worked with World Bible School and did some different things. And I remember him talking about how one time he was in this village and he was preaching and people started picking up rocks to actually stone him to death. I didn't know that went on anymore nowadays, but apparently, whenever he was preaching, I think it was the 40s or something, they were going to stone him to death in this African village. Now, he was able to preach to the people, talk them down from their anger, and people ended up believing the gospel even out of that. But I'm thinking, you mean you were almost stoned to death, and you still preach? I'd get out of there, at least grab a rock of my own, right? But no. During that hardship, he kept preaching. And I remember that story stuck with me as a young man thinking, wow, if he could endure that, when people criticize me, look down upon me, think I'm old-fashioned, or I just don't get it anymore, or that's not how people believe, I can endure that because of his example. Imagine the brethren here in Philippi. They're dealing with their little squabbles in the church, and Paul's over here in prison, still preaching. That would be an encouragement to them. So number one tonight, when life is hard, get connected. Get connected to the purpose of the mission of Jesus Christ. And when you do that, you'll overcome those difficult times. Number two, what about when we have difficult people in our life? Family drama, relationship issues, problems with coworkers, all those things that make life really, really difficult. How should we handle it? Philippians tells us. Let's keep going. Verse 15. Remember, Paul just mentioned that people have courage to preach. But some people are not your ideal preachers. Verse 15. He says, some, to be sure, are preaching Christ even from envy and strife, but some from goodwill. The latter do it out of love, knowing that I'm appointed for the defense of the gospel. The former proclaim Christ out of selfish ambition rather than from pure motives, thinking to cause me distress in my imprisonment. So Paul says, okay, there's also some people out there that are preaching. Preaching is good, but not everybody's preaching from love. There's some people out there that are preaching for a bad reason. Now, I don't fully understand their reason. They thought that by preaching the gospel that they were going to make Paul upset. Maybe they thought, well, Paul wants to be the one to convert everybody, and if we convert everybody, he's going to be sad. We don't know why. But they're out there preaching from a bad motive, but they're still preaching the message, thinking they're going to upset Paul. Instead of Paul going, we need to get those people, we need to take their Bibles away, and so they can't ever do that. I don't like their attitude. I don't like them. He kind of lets it go. Sometimes with difficult people in your life that are trying to make you upset, that are trying to cause arguments and heartache in your life, the best thing sometimes is, I'm just going to kind of distance myself here, and I'm going to move on. I'm going to let it go and not let it kind of hurt me. I'm going to let it roll off me. Because look at what Paul says in verse 18. He says, what then? Only that in every way, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is proclaimed. And in this I will rejoice. Yes, I will rejoice. The best way to shoot down somebody who's trying to cause you heartache in life, being difficult, is to just smile, right? And that's kind of what he does here. He goes, they think they're going to cause me hardship, but I'm just going to go, good for you. It's kind of what he says. He says, and I know that this will turn out for my deliverance through your prayers and the provision of the Spirit of Jesus Christ. Paul says, look, difficult people in your life, it's all right. Just keep connecting to the mission. Ignore the naysayers. Ignore the people that are trying to upset you. Ignore the people that are posting little comments on social media. You know, a lot of our sermons and stuff in Visalia are broadcast online. Sometimes people say things that aren't the nicest. You know what I do? Delete. You know, that's it. I don't engage. I just move on, right? Someone wants to call, well, does your car engage you? What do you believe about this? Nah, I'm not going to waste my time with that. Delete. It's a wonderful tool. It's great. I mean, God has made it, right? The delete button. Sometimes you just kind of delete and move on and go, look, I'm glad they're listening to the sermon, right? Kind of that's what Paul does here. So when difficult people bother you in life, connect to the mission. Find that fellowship of the gospel. Or as my version says, the participation in it. What about difficult choices in life? We're all going to be faced with them. When a difficult choice is in front of us, how do we make that choice? The answer is connect to the greater purpose. And then you'll know the right how because you have the right why. Let me prove it to you. Let's keep reading. Verse 20. According to my earnest expectation and hope that I will not be put to shame in anything, but that with all boldness Christ will even now, as always, be exalted in my body, whether by life or by death. And there's our famous verse, verse 21. For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. But if I am to live on in the flesh, this will mean fruitful labor for me, and I do not know which to choose. Paul has a difficult choice in front of him. To live or to die. Well, of course you're going to choose life. No. Think a little bit deeper here. Paul says, I can choose to die. Now, he's not going to kill himself. But he knew, I think, through knowledge that God has given him and just even from common sense, that as he's going along with his mission work, ultimately probably ending up in Rome, that he was going to be put to death. The writing was already on the wall. He knew that. So Paul could further that and make that happen, kind of bump up the timeline a little bit by preaching in certain places. He had the right to do it, and he ultimately was going to because God wanted him to preach there. But also, Paul says, if I go and preach there, I will die, but I get to go be with Jesus, and that rocks. So, either I can die and be with Jesus, which is amazing, or I can stay on in this life that means labor, but it's fruitful labor. It's going to be hard work, but it's good work. So Paul has a choice in front of him. And our life is full of choices. And when we approach those choices, and we approach them with an attitude that says, okay, what's the mission of God? What is that I'm supposed to do? What is my why? What is my motivation? If we think, okay, maybe there's a job promotion coming up. Should I take it? Should I not? Well, my why is to always serve Jesus better. What job will help me do that? I'm making a choice of a move or a financial decision. Okay, what is my why? My why is to glorify Jesus Christ in all that I do. What decision will help me better do that? When you connect to that mission, it'll help you make a good choice. So look what Paul does. In verse 23 he says, but I'm hard pressed from both directions, having the desire to depart and be with Christ, that is very much better. But now look at verse 24. Yet to remain on in the flesh is more necessary for your sake. Remember I talked about the books about not being selfish? Paul says, here's a choice I have in front of me. The selfish choice is go on to be with Jesus. The selfless choice is to suffer even longer for your benefit. Well, our why is serving other people. If our why is putting the needs of others first, then our how is shaped by that why. Paul's how was shaped by that why. If you look at verse 25, he says, convinced of this, I know that I will remain and continue with you all for your progress and joy in the faith, so that notice that, you and your, so that your proud confidence in me may abound in Christ Jesus through my coming to you again. Paul had a difficult choice in front of him. But you know what he did? When life was hard and difficult choices happened, he remembered the mission. He remembered his purpose. And he connected to it. He remembered what he's in fellowship with. He's in fellowship with a cause that's bigger than himself. The cause that says it's not all about you. It's about serving others. And Paul says, okay, I know why I'm here. I'm here to serve others. I'm going to stay on and remain alive and even suffer for the benefit of the Philippians. His why gave his how purpose. When you're dealing with difficult choices, connect to the mission. When you're dealing with difficult people, connect to the mission. When you're dealing with difficult circumstances, connect to that mission. Remember who you're in fellowship with. You're in fellowship with Jesus Christ. It's bigger than you. So even during the bad times, we need to connect to that. And we need to not allow other people's bad attitudes to keep us from that fellowship with God. We always need to put the needs of others first, even if it means putting off something that we really want to experience. Sometimes doing the right thing, doing the thing that God would have you to do, comes at a very inconvenient time. But we have to remember why we are here. We have to connect to that mission at all times. And that's what Paul wanted them to do. That's what Paul wanted the Philippians to get from this. Go look at verse 27. He says, only conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Our topic tonight is fellowship of the gospel. Here he says, remember to live in a way that's worthy of the gospel of Christ, so that whether I come and see you or remain absent, that I'll hear of you, that you are standing firm, and notice, one spirit, unity, in one mind, key word of the book, striving together for the faith of the gospel. If the church in Philippi could remember why they are there, the division would be overcome, the selfish attitudes would stop, and they would connect to a mission that's so much bigger than themselves. So my lesson tonight is this: when life is hard, get connected to the mission at all times. Be in fellowship with it. Fellowship implies walking together on the same path and in the same direction. And when we understand that as our why, when we connect with that, he who has a why can bear any how. Fellowship connects us to a purpose bigger than us. We as God's people are part of something magnificent. We're part of something amazing. And if we remember that, if we shape all of our decisions in life with that mindset, we'll be glorifying God in everything that we do. Fellowship connects us to something bigger. Now, I know there's an invitation song selected. And I know speaking to an audience like this, that I'm sure primarily all Christians here. But let me encourage you tonight, if you feel disconnected from that mission, if you don't feel like you're having that fellowship right now that you need to have, maybe you've been connecting to the wrong why. Maybe your life's purpose isn't the right purpose anymore. It's time to come to Jesus. Connect with Him. Have that fellowship with Him once again. Be part of something amazing. You know, so many people in the world are looking for meaning. They're looking for something to belong to. They're looking for a cause that they can believe in. Here's the cause that you can believe in right here. The cause of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It is a world-changing cause. You want to make the world a better place? You want to look out for people that are less fortunate? You want to help the needy? You want to build up the poor? You want to change lives, make marriages stronger, teach people how to be better parents, how to people to engage one another with love? Be part of this mission. the mission of Jesus Christ. And if you're here tonight and you've never been part of that mission, you can be baptized into Jesus Christ, and when you do that, you are then joined with Him. You enter into a relationship, a fellowship with God that's unlike any other relationship you'll ever experience, because it connects you to a mission that's bigger than all of us. If you have a need tonight, I know the congregation will be glad to help you here. Why don't you come as together we stand and sing our invitation song.